Good evening. Good evening. We are live within my nature. And for those of you who do see this, who are watching this right now, either on YouTube or on Facebook, please feel free to let me know that you see us and that we're actually live and not just talking to ourselves. We'd appreciate that. I see a few little names popping up. I do want to let you all know that you can message us during the conversation. I get just about everything that comes in. Thank you so much. I've already gotten someone who says, I'm watching. So feel free to do that. I always want to tell my audience that I'm going to be looking up and down and like writing great things that you're saying or checking both my phone and the computer. I've told everyone this is relaxed and uncomfortable. We do not do things in a way that is perfect and pristine because that is not life. We're just going to be organic here. And so if you hear babies, if you hear sounds, if you whatever, okay, because we're living out here.
Got a 4-year-old running around over here.
That's right. That's okay. We're living out here. So for those of you who are in and ready to hear us speak, we're excited to have you, and we are very grateful for any moment to be in this space and to share stories and to help people understand that there is quite a community of us who look like us, who love the earth, who love the land, who farm or garden, whether they're in their condo or outside, like we love it. And we hope that we are welcoming more and more people into this space because there is benefit to it outside of just growing food to live. That's important, but benefit for our mental and emotional and spiritual health, which is why we're here this evening. So the Heirloom, I am Dr. Monique, and I am the founder and visionary of the Heir+Loom Foundation. The Heir+Loom Foundation was founded almost a year ago. I think next month or so. I don't keep up with dates, but it feels like it. It feels like a year, okay?
Yes.
And it was started because I was having conversations with my grandfather. And him and my grandmother purchased land from family. It's over 100 years old. And we're just having a dialogue about what to do with the land. You know, when I grew up on the land with my cousins and my brothers, we just played. We didn't have a strategic plan for what to do. My grandfather, he grew some things. We ate it, but we never really sold things for profit. So there was never a long-term plan. And now that we're older and wanting to have this space for our children and our grandchildren, and we're realizing that Black land is often being stolen from us in so many ways that we are not aware of, and in ways that we are fully aware of.
Yeah, right in front of us.
Giving it away,
Yeah,
right. Which is just not where we need to go. There is wealth in the ownership of land and space. So this is also to encourage people to understand that as well. So until we get all of the money we need for this, big master plan for Hester Farms, I thought it would be a good idea to just start a community of people online and to tell stories and to just gather ourselves together and see what we could do about not only just raising resources for ourselves, but also just supporting one another in
definitely.
the land. So with that being said, I want to introduce a Torres family. Briana is here as the spokesperson for growing up? Growing up
Torres. Yeah.
Bringing up or growing up?
Growing up.
Growing up Torres, both on IG and on Facebook. Remember to follow at growinUp_Torres,
Yes.
and at the Heir+Loom Foundation. So I'm just going to give Briana a second to introduce herself and her family in this space.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Briana from GrowinUp Torres. And
hi, I'm Sebastian Torres.
It's my husband. And you may see our 4-year-old Elijah Torres, my daughter, in and out from time to time. And we'll definitely be making reference to her a few times tonight for sure.
Awesome. And they are in South Jersey.
Yes, we are in Pemberton, right outside the Fort Dix military base.
Okay.
So we just got hit with that big snowstorm you guys saw.
Yes. And you all, I'm assuming you all are doing well. You're all okay post snowstorm. Okay. Excellent. And we did also discover that she is a native Texan, not very far away from us, Webster, Texas. So, the more we talk, the more connections we have. And I absolutely love that, because I think they're less than 6 degrees separation from all of us. I think we're closer together than we think.
100%.
So very, very excited to have you all in our space. So, and when I ask a question, Sebastian, like it might be to Briana, but if you feel like you've got something to say, just come on in. It's all good. You're
He's
welcome.
like my silent partner sometimes.
Yes, I understand that. Great balance, right? Great
Right.
balance. So, I'll go in later on about like the why behind this conversation, but let's just start in history. I love to start our stories in history. Where did you first have your connection with nature? At
That's
what place in life? Yes.
a hard one. I think my grandparents, both of them, well, all 4 of them are from the South originally. So growing up, I think they bought parts of that with them up north. Like we had this crabapple tree in the backyard, I always remember, or we'd have this row of like nondescript vegetables everybody had. Like that was the
Right.
first time I remember. What about you?
First time I remember, I would have to be like around 5, in Brooklyn, New York, because
Okay.
I'm a native. Over there in Brooklyn, New York, we had a couple of trees in this park, and that's where I used to hang out at all the time. Like that was my nature. Like
Few and far between.
Right, only like 4 trees in almost all of Brooklyn.
Yes. Well, I love that, because, and of course, if we say the word nature, we're assuming like this lush forest, forest land and all this stuff. But honestly, so many of us are from urban spaces.
Yeah.
And we have to look with like both eyes open for some nature. And so I love the fact that you're not, you don't have our story. You're not like, back in the country, chewing a fat. You're like, no, in the city, we have 4 trees. That's my nature.
It's hardcore Brooklyn.
I love it. I love it. And so you all have had these memories, this experience, and our childhood memories are not necessarily always these explicit, like, I was planting alongside, my grandparents. It's just, feeling the air, feeling the grass under our feet, the trees, right? All very simple. But I think at some point in our adulthoods, we go back to those spaces. No matter how lush or how sparse they are in our memory. So I always like to know, like, how did you first connect? So with that, then the next question would be for you, Briana, at what point did you reconnect with it? So, as children, we have these huge imaginations. We have these huge experiences as children. Everything is like bigger than life. Then we get grown and we get responsible and we have to create order and organize our lives, and we forget all of that. But at some point we return to it for some reason. It doesn't always have to be traumatic, but we return to it. As an adult, when did you return to the earth, return to nature?
I think it was more gradual for me, but it started when I went to northern New York. It was in Medina, like right outside Buffalo. I was in Job Corps, and that's where I actually met him.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful out there. We were right outside an Indian reservation. You could see the ducks. You could hear nature outside of the dorm room windows. It was beautiful. I used to look out the window when I was running on the trail, and it gave me a sense of peace and like a center when everything was changing.
Yes.
And so both of you all had just signed up for Job Corps separately in your lives and just happened to be in that space. Okay. And then Sebastian, was that your first like real experience in nature in a larger way? Being out there?
Yeah. I was mind blown with the whole thing, like getting to see deer up close and personal. I was like, this is all brand new. It kind of like, it's different seeing it on TV and then seeing it in real life.
Yes.
It's completely different.
Yes. Well, on TV, everything seems so innocent and safe. But even a deer, if I'm caught off guard by a deer, I don't care if it's a baby or what, I am like thrown off. Even now, after all the times I've seen.
They're big.
Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Okay, okay. So every time I talk to someone, I'm always surprised. At least people in this network, I'm always surprised that there has been some crucial moment, whether it was trauma, emotional, spiritual, physical trauma, some crucial moment that led them or made them kind of delve directly into a natural space or use of natural products because they needed to, like, I don't know, preserve something or care for their bodies or whatever it is. So let's talk about your
Mhm.
story. We're gonna stay there for a little bit. What is the story that drew us together? And you can just take your time and tell us anything that you feel comfortable telling us. Before you do, my audience, I remind everybody all the time that stories are sacred ground. So we are always very grateful and honored to enter into someone's story. So I'm telling you now, Briana, that I'm honored to enter into this story space with you. So tell us, what was your crucial moment?
So after we got married, we and settled in, we really wanted to like build and start having children. So we started like making a nice house and we started putting like little things in it and planting around it. And it took us a while, which was surprising, but we finally got pregnant with our first child. And we realized, I don't know if it was because we were young or the area we were in, but we realized that there was not a lot of help, or not a lot of people were taking us seriously about how a mother should properly care for her body. You know, everybody gives you the basics, the lists of do's and do nots, but nobody tells you how to care for your body and what to expect, like the nitty gritty of what to expect when you're pregnant. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So we started trying to find that information for ourselves. And unfortunately, at 17 weeks, we lost that baby. We had a stillbirth.
Mhm.
So that's when we got like more obsessive about it. Like you're trying to figure out what went wrong, you know what I mean? And I started using plants as my therapy to
Mhm.
get over that. So fast forward maybe what, a year later,
Yeah.
we got pregnant again. And we were so cautious this time. Like we knew how to take care of me. We knew to keep it no stress, lots of water, like whole list of things to do. So she's born at 23 weeks. And they were telling us, we went to a couple places before we got to Penn in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We went to a couple places that actually told us that she wasn't going to make it. It wasn't worth trying. It would be better to just evacuate the pregnancy and start again. And they were very callous about it. They weren't even willing to try. So my stepmom is like, all right, this is what we're going to do. She worked for Hospital University of Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And she took us there, and they had a completely different attitude. You could tell that they treated everybody the same. They took everybody seriously. It didn't matter who you were. They said, if you're willing to try, we want to try. They asked me what my ideal birth plan was. They gave me all the tools and information I needed. They were supportive with my husband and kept him informed. And she came at 23 weeks.
Oh my gosh. 23 weeks. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 23 weeks and 5 days.
Oh my gosh. Tell us about that experience before her, with the first one, your experience with other people, this callousness. And the reason why I want to say that for a second is because there have been a lot of voices in recent years. Of course, I listen to celebrities all the time, but celebrity voices that have begun to raise their voices about the lack of maternal health for particularly Black women. Just there are still those myths that we don't feel pain the same way as other
Yeah.
people, as Black people. There are the myths that because we tend to, we may not act out. I don't know, not the best choice of words, but act out in a certain way that maybe we're not experiencing a crisis. Um, and so with the lack of representation in a lot of these spaces, we do experience a lot of callousness. So can you describe maybe some of the things that you heard or at least picked up on, that first time around with the team of people who were supposed to care for you?
100%. A lot of it is unfortunate too because people look at the color of your skin and they look at your age and they assume that you don't know what you're talking about and that you haven't done your research. So we'd be complaining or asking questions about things we were concerned about. And people are like, oh, you don't have to worry about that, or oh, that's not a concern for you. And there's no explanation as to why or things I can do to help the situation. Just, you know what I mean? And then another thing that I kept noticing that really drove me crazy is they always referred to him as my boyfriend. He was never my husband. It was impossible that he could be anything more than my baby daddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So they had already kind of like labeled you and already kind of discarded this entire case. Like, you know what? It's a lost cause. They're too young. They're not even married, although every box is checked, confirm that you are. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Can I ask Sebastian, as a father, I think that we are starting to understand the impact that any of these things make on, have on men as well as women. And not that we didn't know before, but we're starting to have a conversation about it. So we've known, of course, our men have feelings and ideas about what's going on, but we're just starting to say, tell us about that. We're just disregarded, like, hey, I mean, he'll get over it, right? Or he'll be strong, or he doesn't feel it the way that we feel it. Tell us about you during that time, the initial time with the first one and all the chaos of not being heard by the medical team.
The first time around, I was like, since everything was so new to me, I felt so confused. Like it didn't make sense. Something didn't go right. Like we was doing everything that we was like researched and did. Like I don't. It was just a lot of confusion.
We were doing everything we were supposed to be doing.
Like everything we was doing it, and then that happened, and then the second time around, like it was more scary. It was like what's gonna happen next. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad that we did the choices that we did, and we went through with what we had to do, and it's just a life-changing moment. You know what I mean? To see the complete opposite of what I was being told actually happened, and everything going the right way. You know what I mean? And all it took was people just to try. You know what I mean?
Just to try. That's it. Just to make an effort, just to pause long enough to see your humanity, which I don't even know why you need to pause to do that. We're right here, right? We conceived a child. We are human, but for some reason, it is like this amazing gift to find professionals who say, no, let me find out about you. What is your experience? How does your body feel? What is it that you see? What do you feel? What do you say? And then we will kind of join in with you as a part of that team of information and resources. That shouldn't be a one-off. That shouldn't just be every other medical group. It should be everybody.
Every mother should have that. Everybody should have a support team for that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so the second time around, what more did you know? How were you wiser after the first time? What did you bring into the second experience that you didn't have the first time?
I think that we were a more united front. I think that we did a lot of our own research. We asked less questions to the medical team and maybe more questions to like our mothers and our grandmothers and what did you go through? What did you experience here? Or because he's Puerto Rican, Black. So his mother had different remedies than my mother had for things. And it was surprising to see the natural things that helped in place of morning sickness medication or Tylenol for my back or headaches or, you know what I mean? It was just a complete turnaround. So now I keep these things. If I can grow them year round, I can.
Yes. There's nothing like the gift of being able to be surrounded by women who have already been there, family who's already been there, fathers who have been there. I mean, if you've been there at least once, you've got some wisdom to share. And I think that, sometimes we just tend to quiet ourselves, and say, oh, well, it's your path, it's your journey. But, you can add to our toolbox. Your mother and both of your mothers and grandmothers and all of them, like their voices add to the toolbox. And if nothing else, it gives us enough confidence to have our own voice. Even if you go into the medical, facilities, still not knowing what to do, you know who you are, and I think in the advertisement for this particular talk, I may have posted a quote that said, "You are your best thing." I think it's Toni Morrison. And for some
Yeah, I
reason,
saw
I
that.
chose that for this discussion because we are our best thing. We are our best advocates. No one knows our bodies and our living and our family cultures more than we do. And so if we're not an
Exactly.
expert at anything else, we're an expert in ourselves, in us. So for you all to have that and become more and more experts in that, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So if you don't mind, share some of these natural things that your families came up with and share with you for like the basic thing, morning sickness, things we expect, I guess, morning sickness, pain. What were those things?
So one thing that my grandmother said was good for morning sickness, because I would get dehydrated also after it. She said unsweet tea. She would brew unsweet tea with a little extra water in it. She would gulp it
Uh-huh.
down. She's like, that will get you through anything. And she was right. Another thing that his mother told me about was ginger root.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
I was
the
gonna say
actual
that.
smelling, making the tea, ginger helps so much. But I did not want to take medication.
Yeah.
So I was just interviewing everybody I could.
Do you remember any other thing from your mom, Sebastian, that or from Brianna's mom that they had mentioned? Anything else that you all grow now?
I
I forgot
remember,
there was a plant. I forgot what it was. I believe we're growing it now. Um,
oh, there was one that was good. I don't remember whose mom it was, but one of them told me about fenugreek for milk
yes.
production.
Oh, okay.
So I started
Okay.
trying to grow my own, and I actually took the supplements right after she was born because breast milk is like really important, especially for micro preemies. So I wanted
Yes.
to get as much as possible to her. And fenugreek, I think it was your mom.
Yeah.
They said that was the way to go. And what was the other one? Non-alcoholic beer, O'Doul's. I think the
Uh-huh.
yeast in beer we
Yeah.
produce milk. That's what my mom told me she used.
I have never. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I love that. Because the things that pop up in my mind were ginger. I would think about like peppermint, so any mint, right? Is probably really
Mhm.
good for nausea or anything like that. Lemon balm, which I fell in love with. I grew a lemon balm plant maybe 2 years ago, and making tea from that and just creating like a settled stomach. Nothing like that. And so these are all of these wonderful things that are already in our land that we can kind of grow ourselves and just create a settled state. Okay, we understand that things can be more complicated. You might need some more complicated medication for something else, but for the day-to-day living, there are things that may work. So I love that,
Yeah.
and you can just create a whole prenatal garden.
Pretty
Right.
much. Why not? Pre
Exactly.
and post. A lot of the things you need when you're pregnant, you need
Pre and
right
post.
after too, which is another thing they don't tell you.
Yes, yes, yes. You mentioned just in comment in another one of my nature segments that your little one has an autism diagnosis. Is that correct?
Yes, she is high functioning autistic.
Okay. Have you found any natural products or natural approaches to help support her in that as well?
100%. Dirt and leca. I'm telling you, sand, water, all the she gets in there, she feels around, it soothes her, it calms her,
Oh,
it gets her to feel so that we can work on learning.
yes. Yes. So texture, being able to put her
Yeah,
hands in the dirt. Okay. texture. That's wonderful. And I mean, that can also, you can invite her into, I don't know, I think it was last week. Our guest said that, his daughter's not quite into the gardening part, but she likes to dig holes. And that is a part of gardening. So it's like, hey, you got a job, right? I can give you a job and it's therapeutic, so I love
She
it. I
wants to
love
be in the garden, I think, but she's a little heavy-handed right now. So
Got it. So no new plants, no nothing like that. She might hold on to them a little tight,
right.
huh? Okay. Okay. Awesome. So you had this experience. You learned from it. You became better versions of yourselves, with your second, and were able to kind of reach out into your network and family to learn more. And you're still doing it in some ways, right? So let's talk about growing up Torres and how that became a thing.
Yes, we were talking about after we had her and after the struggle we had, we were talking about generational curses and things that like plague Black and brown people for like generations and generations. And one of the things was we never own anything to leave to our children, or when we do, it's few and far between. So
Yeah.
the point of my business, GrowinUp Torres, and him with his side business as well, is to leave a legacy, to leave something, or at least to leave a choice. You know what I mean? And because plants are already something I enjoy, something that already helps me, my daughter, the community, it just seemed like the next step. And also, I love sharing my plant babies anyway.
I love that. You said leaving a choice. I don't think I've heard it, because we say legacy all the time. I love legacy, but you know how we run words out, like, we say it and then it loses all of its meaning, all of its weight. But leaving a choice, I think, is absolutely crucial. And in doing that, you give your children and grandchildren an option. I think that we tend to be pegged into only one way of life, one way of
Right.
understanding, one way of existing, and because of that, it's hard for us to imagine anything outside of it. I remember years ago, I don't remember if it was a speaker or somebody, I don't know if I read it, but somebody was saying something like, our kids can't imagine anything past the end of their driveway or the end of their block, because that is their full world. And we've gotten to a place, I think, in history that there was so much survival happening that there wasn't a lot of time to plan to thrive. It was just about getting to the next day, to the next moment, to the
For the
next
next
breath.
track. Yeah.
I mean, not that it stopped at all, but of course, the media gets tired of certain stories, but all of the Black bodies lost to violence, to police brutality. We deal with so much loss that we don't have the time or bandwidth or energy to plant that apple tree to feed our children 25 years from now.
Right.
So you all did that with GrowinUp Torres. So did you all purchase land? What did that look like for you?
Okay, this is a funny story. So we are in a 1-bedroom apartment. Okay. And we have 200 plants inside. And in the greenhouse, we usually keep another 1,000 over the season. And then we have a vegetable garden that the landlord graciously allowed us to spread out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we're
'Cause y'all are on the rooftop, right? You actually plant on the rooftop, is that right?
No, we plant on the side because we're at the lower apartment.
Okay.
So we use the side and we use the front. Like we really like packed them in there. That's why I was so excited about Frugal House Nursery and their companion planting, because I'm trying to save space.
That was so good. It was good information about, like, because we think about planting and just trying to get as much as we can, but if we plant the wrong things next to one another, then they won't produce the way they should. So I loved that too. I thought you were excited about that as well. But what I love about this particular story and your story is that we're not talking about creating legacy or choice with thousands of acres. Some of us may never have thousands of acres. Do we wish to? Maybe, hundreds, maybe a dozen. but some of us may not get from where we live, like, you know, in what cities we're in, what spaces we're in, according to the cost of things. But what can we do with our spaces? And you all have found a wonderful way to use your space and to produce. So y'all have plants
Yes.
everywhere. That's what you're telling me.
Literally everywhere. You can see them on the ceiling behind me. And then there's some on the little thing. Oh, I can't point over here. They're everywhere.
I love it. Do you all have any favorites, any particular ones that you all brought in for like any reason? You know, sometimes people have some reason behind certain plants in their home. Do you all have any special connections to any particular plants?
Definitely. I think our houseplant collection started with African plants. We wanted to bring African plants in first.
Yes.
So I think our aloe and our snake plant collection was first. And then he really got into bonsaiing, and I really got into Hoyas, which took a complete left because they're from Asia.
Wow. Okay, so you said bonsaiing. So this is a verb. So you bonsai, Sebastian? This is an act that you I want to hear about bonsaiing because I've seen, you know, YouTube videos of how it takes like, you know, 1,000 years to bonsai. So I want to know a little bit more about that.
Like literally, it's the longest process, but at the end of it all, it's like the best thing. It's the best feeling of pride, like to make the biggest tree that you see, just to make so tiny and just so structured. Like I love it.
And to make it look like it came from somewhere else. I love that.
That is crazy to me because I'm telling you, I saw one video and I was like, okay, I'm seeing you do this, but I don't understand what you're doing. And it was like a miracle but it is so intricate. And once again, just like our guest last week, you know, another man who loves plants, he started a plant that's going to take a long time, like that required him to slow down and to be patient with the process. So I think that that's huge because, you know, we want to plant something. I plant greens not only because I like to eat them, but because I need to see something grow immediately. And greens give me a satisfaction
Exactly.
you know, so I love it. I love that you all picked something that takes time. Is this a self-taught thing? Do you do any classes? Do you do any like learning outside of this, like just YouTube, or is anybody teaching you how to bonsai, Sebastian?
I have bought a couple of books, honestly, from Amazon. There was this one that we have somewhere over here, but it's like literally beginner to expert level, everything in between, like anything you need to know about it's inside that book.
He's a hands-on learner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I'll read a little bit and then I just go straight into it. Like I feel like learning the best way is just doing it.
I love it. And this is something that I talk to people all the time. And you mentioned this being hands-on. You know, I feel like we're in a time where we need to raise our children to be able to use more than one tool of theirs. So, you know, to have, you know, their book knowledge and to also be able to use their hands because we don't know which way the economy is going to turn, right? So there's like, we get into one time in the economy. It's like, okay, we need all trades. Forget about the logic. Yeah, you got a doctorate. Good for you. But I need you to be able to, you know, grow something, plant something, build something. But then it will shift again. And we're back in the banks, we're back in insurance, we're back in these, you know, these cerebral roles. And I think that is important for us. You know, many of us who are into this entrepreneurial lifestyle. We talked about it before we came on live, how we're placing our professional lives together. It's a combination of our skill and our passion. And to be able to raise our children that way, right? To say, okay, what can we do with our hands? How can you make money with your hands? What can we train your hands to do, to build, to grow? And then if you're also built for it, what can we teach you academically so that you're prepared however the wind blows?
Exactly.
We can do both. And we tend to just stick to one or the other, but I think we need to do both, you know? So I love that. That's a whole, patience itself is a whole skill. It's a whole skill and requires like a lot of learning. So you all do sell plants. Let's talk about your actual like inventory. What does that look like?
A lot of the inventory is basic house plants. Like you'll find a few pothos, a couple of succulents in the summertime, but everything that we sell, or most of the things that we sell, we grow ourselves here. So it's not really predictable. It's kind of more like boutique plant shopping. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yes.
My specialty though is Hoyas. So
Okay.
there's a whole section for Hoyas on our page and Hoya like gifts.
Okay. Let's talk about Hoya. So I got stuck on bonsais because my brain just stopped when he said bonsai. But let's talk about Hoyas. So I don't know. Tell me more about Hoyas and why that's your specialty. How did that become your specialty?
I fell in love with Hoyas because I don't know if anybody else likes her, but I love Summer Rain Oaks on YouTube, her channel.
Okay.
And
Okay.
she was growing all of these Hoyas and she was describing the way the bloom smelled, like chocolate or like vanilla or like honey. And I'm like, I gotta see how this works.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it takes like 2 to 5 years to get a Hoya to bloom sometimes.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. But all the leaves look so different. All the leaves look so different. They enjoy humidity. They're really easy to care for, honestly, and very rewarding. So
Yeah.
that's like my favorite thing to grow.
Yes. Yes. Hoyas, bonsai. I love this. This is awesome. Awesome. So you all sell, do you all have any long-term plans? So, you have your space, you're using it to capacity, and you sell plants. What other dreams do you have for Growing Up Torres? How do you want to use your platform, which we know will grow and prosper? How will you use it?
I hope. I ultimately want to become a home and landowner and then use my home / storefront as a community center. You know what I mean? To do
Yeah.
things like what my daughter does with sensory therapy and to help people heal from things like postpartum depression, which is something that a lot of women deal with that they don't speak up about. There's so
Yes.
many things that I want to be able to do and give back and just heal as a community because we all need it. And I think we're all ready now.
Yes. I love that statement. I do think we're ready. All the things that you've mentioned, we've experienced, our parents experienced, our grandparents experienced, and like I mentioned before, we were so caught up in surviving moments that we didn't talk about digging a little deeper and healing those spaces. So then, when our kids go through it or somebody else we love goes through it, all we can really do is just empathize and have this bleeding heart. But I think we're ready to actually heal from it now and then heal in retrospect and then heal in, our future. And I
Exactly.
think that space would be wonderful. And I feel like there are these initiatives, these efforts that are happening here and there. But I don't think that we could ever have enough spaces for healing. No matter
Exactly.
what anyone says or tells us, oh yeah, that already exists. It can't exist the way that you imagine it existing. I, not being a mother, can create a healing space and do a lot of things out of assumption, and it'll be very different for you having your mother twice over, having experienced something very different and creating a healing space. Those two spaces are going to be very different and they're going to offer something very different and needed by both communities. So I certainly do believe we're ready. I do believe we're ready. And I believe there's more for us to do in this space. So I'm super excited about that. So
And there's
we
plenty of
join you
space
in that
for
dream. We join you in that dream. Do you think it's going to be where you are? Like, would you like to settle up where you are in New Jersey or up north, or are you thinking you might come back south?
I would like to go back towards the South. Number one, Jersey's property tax is ridiculous. And there's a lot of farmland up here already because we're the garden state. But I'd like to be further down south. I feel like it would feel more home-like to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather be down south, spread out, be around my own people in a
Yes.
community that I feel maybe more comfortable in.
Yes. Yes. Okay. That makes sense. So I'd love to hear from you, and Sebastian, if he comes back around this way, just words of wisdom. So, there are going to be other young women and men who are going to go through your experience, unfortunately, and they're going to be surrounded by people who, think they know but don't know, who
Mhm.
might know but don't care. They're going to have children who are born absolutely perfect and beautiful and differently abled, not understanding the world the same way as what, somebody else would. How would you guide a young, 21-year-old couple who might be on the verge of something very similar to what you all experience? How would you guide them, both just in words and also in how you would incorporate nature?
I think I would just tell them to be gentle with themselves and with each other. Like, remember to be kind to yourself and to each other. The world puts a lot of pressure on you when you're 20 something. You have all these things you need to do and accomplish and check off of your list. And
Mm.
just draw close to your other person, because it's going to get hard and you're going to need that to be your best friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Community, right?
For
Community.
sure.
Sebastian,
Definitely.
what would you say to young men? Once again, we tend to societally, we tend to tell the guys just kind of hang back and, especially when it comes to maternal health, just hang back and, just do what she tells you to do. That might be some part of advice, but honestly, what do you do? How do you guide young men into being healthy when it comes to crisis that's going to happen in their lives at any point in time?
I would tell them to be patient, keep a cool head, because it's very easy to lose it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Hmm.
And
and
be honest.
be honest. Exactly. Be entirely honest with your significant other. Just talk, confide in them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's about the only way you're gonna get through it is with that person. Like, that's your teammate from now and then for however long it goes on for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And I think, and the reason why it's good and it shouldn't be so profound, but it's profound is because what we tend to do is kind of go inside, right? I think a lot of men are encouraged to just work it out. Just work it out
Mhm.
inside, right?
Right.
But to know that if you don't have a partner, that you need to find a community, you need to find a partner in this, whether or
Right.
not that is your parent or your sibling or whatever it is. But this idea that we need to share the weight of our burden is, I think, it's natural to us. It's where we came from. But I think in our experiences, as we are filtered, as our history has been filtered through enslavement, we have latched on to this idea of independence that has become toxic. Yes, we need to be independent in certain ways, but our meeting together, our meeting of minds and of hearts, I think are not only essential but literally they're in our roots, and I feel like that's something we can go
Mhm.
back to as well. Um,
100%.
yeah, yeah. And so, like you said, we're ready for it. I'm seeing people do it, and I want to encourage people, those of us who are watching right now, who might look at this later on, to continue to find your tribe, because your tribe changes. And your tribe might just be your spouse. And your tribe might just
Mhm.
be who's in your house.
Mhm.
And then it might be beyond that. And it might be virtual. But our tribe is important to our healing, and I feel like you all are showing that, in your united front, because you're still a united front after
Yeah.
after that battle, right?
Mhm.
After that
That
battle.
was
So
a hard one, yeah.
Right.
yes, yes, yes. So I appreciate those words of wisdom. And so, what we're going to do, we are going to wrap up. Before we wrap up, though, I do want to encourage everybody who's watching, who will share, who will see this at some point in time, to please follow at growin with an N up underscore Torres on IG as well as Facebook, and support what they do, and be patient with us, the smaller organizations that are just becoming, we are becoming in front of you. We're becoming organizations and ourselves. We are becoming right in front of you. So not all questions are answered. We don't know exactly what the next turn will be, but we do have this love and this passion and desire to heal through nature. And if you would just join us on IG, join us on Facebook, and walk with us as we're journeying, we couldn't ask for more.
Yes.
So I want to encourage you all to do that.
Exactly.
Please also do that for at the Heir+Loom Foundation. Also, anytime you see us and you write our tags down, if you have questions after this about something we may have said, a resource, a word of advice, DM. We can communicate because we want to be able to share what we know. I think it is kind of time out from hoarding all of this good stuff that we're learning about ourselves, and about about our very nature that could help somebody else. No more hoarding. It's time to give and to spread that. So yeah.
Share the love.
Share
the
it.
knowledge.
Share the love. Share the love. So with that, I'm going to do what I've done with every other guest, and it's called a rapid. What is it? What I call it? Rapid affirmation. What we do is I just read a statement, and you just come up with a word or short phrase that comes to mind immediately. So I want both of y'all to do it. Okay. All right. So just take time. Do not overthink it. It's so not that deep. Okay. It's called a rapid fire affirmation. So the statement is, it is in my nature to see blank. It's in my nature to see
Plants.
Need.
what was yours?
Plants.
Plants. And then what'd you say?
Mine
Brianna?
was need.
Need.
See need. Mhm.
It is in my nature to feel
What others feel.
How about you, Sebastian?
To feel happy.
Yes, yes.
I'm always in a good mood.
Yes,
True.
I love that. I love that. It is in my nature to attract.
Love.
Yes.
We are
Yes.
surrounded by love.
Yes,
real.
yes. It is in my nature to reject.
Reject negative vibes. I don't like
Yes.
those.
Yes,
I have to agree with that one. Same.
yes. We've learned that both people and plants do not respond well to negative vibes. We will all show you. Yes, we will completely shrivel up when we are surrounded by the wrong words, wrong environment, wrong people. We just dry up. So I love that. It is in my nature to embrace.
Differences.
I would say embrace problems or struggles because you
Yeah.
always learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To learn from. I love it. It is in my nature to love.
My family because I love them.
Yes. Do you agree, Brianna?
I do. I was trying to different. I can't. I gotta agree with that one.
You got to do that one. Okay. And last but not least, it is in my nature to be.
Involved.
Involved.
Be
How about you?
positive.
Positive. Yes, yes. Okay.
I'm all about good vibes.
That's right, as we should be, right? I think we go through enough that completely tear us away from our happiness to not fight for our happiness and fight for positivity, right?
You all deserve
So
it.
I'm with you on that one. So as I want to just kind of pour that affirmation back into you all. And I want to join you all in wishing and hoping and praying that you become co creators with God and with the universe in seeing need and plants, feeling happy and what others feel, attracting love 2 times over, rejecting negative vibes, embracing struggles that cause us to learn and embracing differences, loving family, being positive, and being deeply involved. So I hope that for you. I wish that for you. I pray that for you all. You all are
Thank you.
on
I
your
felt
Amazing.
that.
Right.
amazing. Oh, I'm so glad. You're all amazing already. But what the dream that you have, the things that you plan to do, the story that you have to tell, honestly, I feel like we are on the verge of saving lives. You know what I'm saying? Like people are
Hope so.
losing themselves and losing their lives just because they do not feel like they are heard or understood or belong. They're not loved, and I feel if nothing else in this circle that we're creating, that there's so much love and there's so much grace, to grow
Mhm.
and to be who we are. And so you're saving lives by telling your story, and I appreciate that.
I hope so. And I
Right.
hope whoever has the same story shares. Not enough women share. It's not
Yes.
shameful. It's not embarrassing. Please share. More
Mhm.
women need to hear it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So once again, before we go, please remember to follow and support at GrowinUp_Torres. The same for Facebook and for IG. Please support at the Heirloom Foundation. We cannot thank you enough for being in this space with us. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening. And we will see you all the week after next, because Heirloom is creating an intentional Sabbath every first weekend of the month to restore
Hmm.
themselves. And when I say heirloom, I mean me, to restore myself,
I
to
like
keep
that. That's
doing
important.
more. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. And then you all can stick around just for a second. Have a good evening.
Okay.
All right.